Elon Musk has become $138 billion richer, Mark Zuckerberg has become $49 billion richer, and Jeff Bezos has become $28 billion richer since Election Day. Meanwhile, 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, 85 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured in terms of health care, and 25% of seniors are trying to survive on $15,000 a year or less. Additionally, 800,000 Americans are homeless, and the country has one of the highest rates of childhood poverty among major nations. Real inflation-adjusted wages for the average American worker have not increased in 50 years. Does anyone really think that the oligarchs give a damn about ordinary people? Trust me, they don't. T.Mer, President, we are living in an extremely dangerous time. Future generations will look back at this moment and remember whether we had the courage to defend our democracy against the growing threats of oligarchy and authoritarianism. They will remember whether we stood with President Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg in 1863, where he looked out over a battlefield where thousands of soldiers had died fighting against slavery. Lincoln stated, "This nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from the earth." Do we stand with Lincoln's vision of America, or do we sit idly by and allow this country to move into a new vision of government of the billionaire class? By the billionaire class, for the billionaire class? But it is not just oligarchy that we should be concerned about. Today, 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half of American society, 170 million people. The gap between the very rich and everyone else is growing wider. We have more income and wealth inequality today than we have ever had. On top of all that, we are moving rapidly under President Trump toward authoritarianism, with more and more power resting in fewer and fewer hands. As we speak, Elon Musk, the wealthiest man on the planet, is attempting to dismantle major agencies of the federal government designed to protect the needs of working families and the disadvantaged. These agencies were created by Congress, and it is Congress's responsibility to maintain, reform, or end them, not Mr. Musk's. What Mr. Musk is doing is patently illegal and unconstitutional and must be stopped. 2 weeks ago, President Trump attempted to suspend all federal grants and loans, an outrageous and clearly unconstitutional act. Under the Constitution and our form of government, the president can recommend legislation, support legislation, or veto legislation, but he does not have the power to unilaterally terminate funding passed by Congress. It is Congress, the House, and the Senate that control the purse strings. In this move toward authoritarianism, it is not just Congress that is being attacked, but also our judiciary. This weekend, the Vice President of the United States, a graduate of Yale Law School who clerked for a Supreme Court justice, said, "Judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power." Really? I thought one of the major functions of the federal courts is to interpret the Constitution and, when appropriate, serve as a check on the unconstitutional power of the executive. That is not just what I believe, but what every legal scholar, a lawyer in America, understands to be the case. Meanwhile, Mr. Musk has proposed that the worst 1% of appointed judges be fired every year and demanded the impeachment of judges who have blocked him from accessing sensitive Treasury Department files. Under Mr. Musk's rule, it would be him and his billionaire friends who determine who the worst judges are. Mr. Musk, I must tell you, you don't impeach judges who rule against you. Under the U.S. Constitution, we have a separation of powers, brilliantly crafted by the Founding Fathers in the 1770s, and it has worked well throughout our history. We have an executive branch, a legislative branch, and a judiciary. What we are seeing now is not just an organized attack on the power of Congress and the responsibility of the judiciary. Mr. Trump and his friends are not just trying to undermine 2 of the 3 pillars of our constitutional government, Congress and the courts. They are also going after the media in a way we have never seen in the modern history of this country. Trust me, every member of Congress will tell you that the people working in the media and media organizations are not perfect. We have all had our experiences with the media, and like everything else, they make mistakes every day. But I hope every member of Congress understands that you cannot have a functioning democracy, a free flow of information, or the pursuit of truth without an independent press, a press not intimidated by presidents of the United States, but one that writes and sees things as they understand them to be. In recent months, President Trump has sued ABC and received a $155 million settlement. Sued Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, and received a $25 million settlement. Sued CBS and its parent company Paramount and is now in negotiations over a settlement. Sued the Des Moines Register for poll results he didn't like, and his FCC is threatening to investigate PBS and NPR. In other words, we have a president who is using his incredible power and the power of his agencies to go after media in this country, who are saying and doing things he does not like. How are we going to have an independent media if journalists are looking over their shoulders, fearful that their reporting will trigger lawsuits from the most powerful executive in the world? Mr. President, in the midst of all this, I think it is time to ask a very simple question, one that is on the minds of millions of Americans. What do Mr. Musk, Mr. Trump, and their fellow billionaires really want? It's not really taking over Greenland or the Panama Canal. The real question is, what is their endgame? What is their goal? What are they striving for? In my view, the answer is not complicated, novel, or new. It is exactly what ruling classes throughout history have always wanted and believed to be their rights: more power for themselves, more control for themselves, and more wealth for themselves. In their pursuit of more power, more control, and more wealth, they are determined not to allow democracy and the rule of law to get in their way. For Mr. Musk and his fellow oligarchs, the needs, concerns, pain, ideas, and dreams of ordinary people are simply an impediment to what they, the oligarchs, are entitled to. That is what they believe. They are entitled to all the wealth and power they have, and they are determined to stop anyone who gets in their way. This phenomenon is not the first time we have seen this in our country's history. In pre-revolutionary America, before the 1770s and the creation of the United States, the ruling class governed through the doctrine of the divine right of kings, the belief that the King of England was an agent of God, appointed by him, and not to be questioned by mere mortals. In modern times, we no longer have the divine right of kings. Instead, we have an ideology pushed by the oligarchs, which says that as a very wealthy group of people, often self-made, masters of revolutionary new technology and high IQ individuals, it is their absolute right to rule. In other words, the oligarchs of today are our modern-day kings. Mr. President, it is not just power that they want. Despite the incredible wealth they currently have, they want more and more and more. Their greed has no end. Today, Mr. Musk is worth $40 billion, Mr. Zuckerberg is worth $250 billion, and Mr. Bezos is worth $249 billion. Combined, these three people own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. 170 million Americans died since President Trump was elected. Their wealth has soared. Musk has become $138 billion richer. Zuckerberg has become $49 billion richer. And Bezos has become $28 billion richer since Election Day in November. Meanwhile, while the very rich become much richer, 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. 85 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured in terms of health care. 25% of seniors are trying to survive on $15,000 a year or less. 800,000 Americans are homeless. And we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. Real inflation-adjusted wages for the average American worker have not gone up in 50 years. Does anyone really think that the oligarchs give a damn about ordinary people? Trust me, they don't. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel to not miss out on top-tier analyzers of politics. And just to see you in the next video, where we'll continue exploring showdowns that change how the world sees.